WrestleMania 40 is now in the books, and what an event it was. 14 matches in total across 2 nights, and today I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best. Number 14, Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. For a match that had so much build and was the product of an intense personal rivalry, this match really missed the mark. They seemed very focused on the emotion of the match instead of the actual work rate, which is what really the Usos have been known for throughout their careers. Superkick after superkick with little else to it, they just didn't really ever get started. Going in, they had a really good crowd catch and draw with the yeet versus no yeet stuff, and they used this a couple of times throughout the match, but there was nothing else really for the crowd to engage with. It feels baffling that this didn't have a stipulation considering the rivalry and the relationship between the two. A city of brotherly love street fight as they were in Philadelphia would have been a good fit for the match. Nonetheless, the right person won the match as Jey is clearly the brother WWE have more stock in going forward. Number 13, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. It didn't really feel right to rank this as it was less than 30 seconds long, so for that reason I have it at the bottom, although still above the Superkick fest that the Usos put on. Priest has taken a very long time to cash in, and whether or not from a booking perspective this was the right time for it is a whole other story, but it does leave a lot for Drew McIntyre to work with going forward. He got his moment that he has craved at WrestleMania for so long and then had it taken away in less than 5 minutes. So Priest winning the match, finally cashing in the contract, and it still leaves a lot for Drew and Priest to do going forward. Number 12, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament. Genuinely, from here onwards, there was no bad matches, which made ranking them all insanely difficult. But nonetheless, when the WrestleMania cards were announced, this match was probably the one that had the least amount of intrigue. A relatively poorly built story that was drawn out over months, but the payoff was a very fun match. The street fight stipulation was a good addition, and Bubba Ray Dudley as special guest referee was fun. The main highlights of the match were Montez Ford nearly launching himself into the front row with a crazy dive spot over the top ropes, and the unfortunate but still quite funny table botch with Karrion Kross accidentally breaking through the table as the Profits were trying to set him up onto it. And of course, Snoop Dogg on commentary is always fun, and he was being his usual hilarious self. This doesn't rank high on the list, but it paid off the story in a nice way with the correct winners in the end. Number 11, Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar. Simply put, this was a good wrestling match between 4 good wrestlers. Lots of quick-paced, fun action combining lucha libre with traditional WWE styles. There was a danger of this being a bit too clustered, with the LWO and Legado del Fantasma getting involved, and while they did interfere eventually, they still let the 4 people in the match have enough time to do some really good work. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, which saw NFL stars Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson help Rey and Andrade secure the win, but I appreciate it was more of a moment to pop the Philadelphia crowd. I am slightly disappointed that we didn't get the Carlito heel turn, which is surely coming in the near future, because I feel this was quite a good time to pull the trigger on that, but we'll have to wait for that a little bit longer. Number 10, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill and Naomi versus Damage Control. Usually 6-person tag matches are quite predictable with their flow, and this wasn't unpredictable in any way, but the action was good enough to the point that that didn't really matter. Everyone in this match got a chance to shine, including with both teams' entrances, which were both visually amazing. Just simply lots of good wrestling with an expected outcome, but not a bad one at all. WWE have done an incredible job in building Jade Cargill up to be a star, and she certainly is one. The crowd were really hot for her throughout this entire match, and she proved her worth once again. Number 9, The Judgment Day versus The Awesome Truth versus New Catch Republic versus DIY versus A-Town Down Under versus The New Day for the undisputed Tag Team Championships. A ladder match at WrestleMania is always a welcome inclusion, and this was no different. An immediate thing that takes this match down a little bit in my view is the fact that Both the sets of titles were hung so far apart in the ring that it made it very obvious that the titles were going to be split. However, thank God they were split. The tag division in WWE is insanely strong right now, and they deserve two sets of titles being held by teams who are actually involved in the tag team division instead of being used as props to the main event scene. Every team had opportunities to showcase their talents, and they all did so very well. Theory and Waller are really entertaining together and are a good choice, in my opinion, to hold the SmackDown titles. And it was genuinely, truly heartwarming to see R-Truth finally get a big WrestleMania moment after so many years of funny and just enjoyable work in the WWE. Number 8, LA Knight versus AJ Styles. With no title on the line and no special stipulation, there was a danger of this not feeling worthy of the WrestleMania card, despite the obvious huge talent involved. However, they did a really good job at making this feel like a true grudge match right from the start. Styles debuted a new theme song, which is not as good as his old theme song, to be honest with you, but we didn't get to hear too much of it as he sprinted to the ring to start the brawl with Knight immediately. A very well structured match that either man could have won, but Knight taking the victory feels like a really nice crescendo to this amazing breakout year he's had in the WWE. Number 7, Roman Reigns and The Rock versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. This may seem very low on the list, and by no means at all am I saying it was a bad match. In fact, I thought this was a really, really good in terms of being entertaining, but as a wrestling match, it's really hard to rank it because it wasn't really a wrestling match. The Rock threatening to fire the ref if he counted him out was a great idea and really showcased his power as the final boss. There were short sequences of really good mat work, but this was more of a beatdown than a wrestling contest, but it was fun, and that goes a really long way. Huge amounts of star power involved, The Rock making an incredible entrance beforehand, and ending in the correct result from a story perspective. Was it a technical masterpiece? No, but similarly to The Rock versus Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 18, the star power and pure entertainment took this a very long way. Even if at about 45 minutes it did go longer than it needed to, maybe we could have shortened down a lot of the opening exchanges, which was mainly just a lot of stare downs between the four people. Number 6, Logan Paul versus Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens for the United States Championship. The psychology of this match was clear and worked very well for the characters involved. Logan Paul trying to get Owens and Orton to turn on each other while they team up to take him out. The classic never trust the Viper as he tried to hit the RKO on Kevin Owens to set up their brawl together perfectly. Just another really strong wrestling match. And it included an incredible RKO that I don't think has been getting nearly enough credit online as he reversed Kevin Owens' pop-up powerbomb into his finishing move. IShow Speed was revealed to be inside the Prime bottle that had accompanied Paul to the ring, and he took an RKO for his troubles on the announce table from Randy Orton. Great storytelling from all involved, and the match moved along at a really good pace. Maybe the wrong person won, but whether you like it or not, Logan Paul is great at what he does in the WWE, and the title being on him is not a bad thing at all. Number 5, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Drew pretty much had to build the entire story for this match on his own because of Seth's involvement with Cody and the Bloodline, but wow, did he do a great job of it. The match itself wasn't a technical marvel by any stretch of the imagination, but it was two men throwing their best shots at each other over and over again until someone finally hit that killer shot, and it worked perfectly. Rollins being defiant as ever and doing everything in his power to stay alive, but Drew finally landing that definitive shot to put Rollins down. A moment that McIntyre deserves so much for the work he's put in for the WWE over the last 5 years, and a befitting ending to the amazing workhorse run Rollins has had with the World Heavyweight Championship. Number 4, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch for the Women's World Championship. The first match of WrestleMania 40, and it was the perfect way to open what was billed as the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Both women worked their socks off in this match that felt like it could swing either way at any point. Becky did a great job of focusing on Rhea's injured arm, and Rhea did a great job of using her raw power to overcome that injury. Some really clean wrestling and good near falls, and I and the crowd brought into it all. Rhea also pulled out a few nice new moves that we haven't seen from her, including the riptide into the turnbuckle that we saw during the closing sequence. She was definitely the correct choice to come out on top in the end, as her reign is still as hot as it was when it started, and Lynch is already a bona fide star, so this loss won't do anything to damage her at all. Number 3, Io Sky versus Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. There was only 2 women's singles matches on the WrestleMania card this year, but man did they both deliver. This was one of the longest built matches going into this year's WrestleMania, with the slow eradication of Bayley from Damage Control, so there was plenty of an emotional weight involved. A big part of the match revolved around Io targeting Bayley's knee that she's had bad injury history with before, playing into the psychology of them knowing each other so well from their time together. This was further shown with some really innovative counters to each other's finishers, including a beautiful one from Io to avoid Bayley's rose plant. This was an exceptional showcase of a match not needing a stipulation for the emotion to be felt, and ultimately it was Bayley who came out on top, and the crowd were red hot for her the whole match, which was great to see. Bayley finally getting her big win in a WrestleMania singles match. Number 2, Gunther versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Zayn has been built as the ultimate underdog to the dominant Gunther over the last month, and they used this so well. Zayn's entrance showed him backstage with his son and wife, which was really heartwarming, before he walked to Gorilla, where he was met by his lifelong best friend, Kevin Owens, who gave him the final firing up that he needed. Some people were annoyed that this wasn't Chad Gable's opportunity, but Zayn is so damn good at making you root for him that he got almost everyone on his side by the end. Zayn's wife being at ringside only added to the emotion of it all. The match had a simple underdog versus monster flow, with Gunther dominating before Zayn fights back, until Gunther would hit a big move and dominate again. The champion hit multiple power bombs, splashes, huge clotheslines and more. Eventually, Sami was able to fire up one last time, nailing Gunther with a huge brainbuster that commentary sold amazingly, before nailing 2 haluva kicks to pick up the shock win. This was a perfect demonstration of how to book a David versus Goliath style match, and it was a fitting way to end what has been an incredible Intercontinental Championship reign from Gunther. And number 1, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. The easiest way to describe this match is that it felt like a literal dream. In my fantasy booking video that I made a few weeks ago, go and watch it if you haven't, I said that I wanted this to be chaos, and it certainly was. But it was a truly classic WrestleMania main event. 2 incredible entrances, with Brandi Rhodes making a nice surprise appearance, which was really nice to see, and she got a nice pop from the crowd. Some insanely good work between Rhodes and Reigns, with plenty of near falls, big spots, and just so much to enjoy. And that's before we even got to any of the true chaos that we would see. Genuinely, the last 15 minutes of this match are my favourite in my lifetime of watching professional wrestling. No words I say can truly do this justice for how special it felt, but I'll give it a go. First of all, Jimmy getting involved before being taken out by Jay was a really nice moment, sealing off their story they've been telling. Then Solo getting involved before being taken out by a returning John Cena, which was a great surprise pop. Then The Rock going face to face with John Cena, calling back to their 2 WrestleMania main events from over a decade ago. Seth Rollins coming out with the Shield's entrance music was pure genius, and as I'll get to, gave it an amazing payoff. But before that, The Undertaker came out to the surprise of everyone to chokeslam The Rock, taking him out of the match. And I think it is obvious that this spot was initially intended for Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I guess a deal couldn't be agreed with him for whatever reason. Nonetheless, Taker has plenty of history with The Rock and Reigns and was a great substitute to fill the spot. The emotions that go through you when that first gong hits, especially at a WrestleMania, is always incredible. But my favourite part of this all is the closing sequence. Roman Reigns holding a steel chair, having the opportunity to take out Cody Rhodes and retain his title, but on the other side of the ring, seeing Seth Rollins wearing the Shield's attire and choosing to hit him in the back instead, in the exact same way Rollins did to him in 2014 to break up the Shield. Because the one thing that has always held Roman back and always will is that he never got the opportunity to get his revenge on Seth Rollins for the Shield ending. He finally got that revenge that he has craved, but that hatred ultimately cost him the title and let Rhodes beat him. Pure cinema from start to finish, amazing storytelling with some insane long-term payoffs, one of the greatest main events in WrestleMania history to cap off one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. And that's my ranking. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.